Yes, guys, what's going on? Sham here from Be Real TV, and I've got to say, this was an entertaining fight. I've been watching Nate Diaz for a number of years, and watching Jake Paul and his development in boxing has been something very unique. And I know a lot of people who are going to be watching this are not traditional boxing fans, which is cool. But I'm going to break down for you guys the fight in a fashion that no other channel is going to be able to do, because I'm going to break it down in terms of boxing. Look. Nate Diaz, he comes from the MMA world. And the thing is this, in MMA, you have smaller gloves, and there are a lot of misconceptions about punching in MMA and punching in boxing. Okay, let me just explain that to you first. You see, when boxing evolved, it started off with very small gloves, in different times, whether it was the Roman times, the Egyptians, it started off with small leather wraps around their hands, and it developed over the years. And then under the Queensberry rules of boxing, the gloves got bigger, and when the gloves got bigger, the skills changed in the ring, because with bigger gloves you can block in a different way. So MMA and the UFC focus on punching without loading up on your punches, because when you have the heavier, bigger gloves on, you can really torque the punches. You can put more weight behind them and get heavier punches within that squared circle. And the thing is that Jake Paul has traditionally trained in boxing. Now, given it's only been a number of years that he's been boxing, he's trained solely in boxing. Now, when you get in that ring, that adrenaline is pumping. You're going to go back to what your nature is. And Nate Diaz went back to his nature. He had the high guard, he was blocking, and he was punching, similar to Conor McGregor, without any torque, without any loading up on the shots. And you don't want to overload on your shots. No, you don't. But you want to turn the punches over. You do want to bend your knees, and you do want to put some power behind them. And this is something that Nate Diaz just did not do. He was wearing Jake Paul out, and he was going like this was like a 15-20 round fight. No, it wasn't. It was a 10-round fight. Okay, 10 3-minute rounds in bursts. You have to do your best in that time period, and Jake Paul has grasped that. That's why amateur fighters, they can turn into very good pro fighters, because in the amateurs it's 3 minutes, it's high pressure, and you've got to, in them 3 rounds, you've got to perform up to standard, and you've not got a lot of time. And then what happens is that high volume, high pace transfers into the pro ranks. The rounds go up and up and up. And you have to pace yourself. You have to get the right amount of volume and power into your punches. So for me, the way I saw this fight was Nate Diaz, he was unable to load up on any shots. He was unable to use any significant boxing capability, and he made a show of it. But respect to Nate Diaz, he was in there, did his thing. He had some decent footwork at times. He knew his way around the ring. But there is a big difference between boxing and MMA. Now look, Jake Paul, let's go on to Jake Paul. I thought Jake Paul did some beautiful things in that ring. Okay, he's really learning, and I'm a fan of Jake Paul. You could tell he puts a lot into this. There's some things he needs to work on though. Okay, let's focus on what he needs to work on first. When Nate Diaz was coming at him, Jake Paul didn't know how to grapple on the inside, and he seemed a bit apprehensive to be able to grapple and hold. In boxing, I noticed that there's a lot of fighters, they struggle to hold on the inside, and grappling is a part of boxing. You've got to be able to hold. You've got to be able to smother the work of the other opponent, especially when he's coming at you like that. And then box on the inside from the holds. This is stuff that Jake Paul didn't do. And if he wants to get back in the ring with Tommy Fury, he needs to do that. The thing is with Tommy Fury, however, we're going to come on to Tommy Fury in a second, actually. Let's just leave that for a second. Let's finish talking about this fight. The other thing that Jake Paul did beautifully, though, is that when Nate Diaz was coming in, he had a beautiful check left hook. Okay, he was throwing the check left hook. He had a good range control, and he was throwing punches with torque and with precision. which was very impressive. But he wasn't overloading on the shots. There was a lot of wasted energy on his feet. I felt like he could have been a bit more relaxed. Nate Diaz was the more composed, relaxed fighter, but obviously he's been in the fight game a long time, so he's going to be. Jake Paul tends to have a lot of nervous energy in there, and you can tell because at no point in the fight is he relaxed. Nate Diaz, look how relaxed and composed he was. Jake Paul needs to be more relaxed in that ring, but this is just natural for a fighter who hasn't been doing that this long. So, moving on from the fight, I thought Jake Paul did a good job in this fight. I think he's got improvements to make and he's become more seasoned, more relaxed, and he needs activity. I think he's fighting a lot of fighters who are at a pretty high level. I think he just needs high activity. He needs more fights, more frequency, and not continuously trying to fight these big pay-per-view events. But that's what it's going to be, and that's how Jake Paul wants to do his career. He's going to make a lot of money off it. But if he wants to truly have longevity in the sports, he needs activity. He needs some throwaway fights. But he's not taking that route, which is fine. I think coming next, he's going to probably move on to Tommy Fury or Nate Diaz in the octagon. If he fights Nate Diaz in MMA, Nate Diaz will take him out. Okay, he'll wrestle him, he'll battle him, he'll make it a difficult fight, and Nate will do him. He'll do him on the chokes. He'll use his superb wrestling and BJJ, and he'll take Jake Paul out. Simple as. He'll get him in some nice guillotines, he'll tie him up, wrap him up, rough him up, and he will take Jake Paul out, even at his age. But then again, I say that, but Jake Paul honestly beat Nate Diaz very comprehensively in the boxing ring. And a fight is a fight, and I think if you're beating this guy, Nate Diaz, by this much of a margin in boxing, Jake Paul, you never know, he could stand a chance. He may be able to do some wrestling, some grappling, be able to defend himself. And beat Nate Diaz in the octagon is possible. Anything is possible. And I think that would be a very interesting fight because you wouldn't know which way it would go. But that's my take on it. I think if he goes the Tommy Fury route, I think Tommy Fury's been out of the ring a long time. He's gone a bit fat, taking his eye off the ball. I think Jake Paul, with his activity, could probably take the rematch, to be honest. I would expect him to because he's improving. Tommy Fury was out doing YouTube videos after and being a model. And I think Jake Paul's come along since then. I think another training camp, he'll come along a bit more and he's improving very, very slightly, but the improvements are there. And that's all that matters. I'm a big Jake Paul fan. I really like him. I think he's got a lot of avenues he could go down, and he's got a lot of options. And I think it'll be interesting to see what he does next. I think he's very good. I think he's very entertaining. And we need, it's fine. We need entertainment in this sport. So, look, Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, great fight. Please make sure you subscribe to Be Real TV. Check out the other videos. I'm going to be covering more of these types of fights. I thought this was quite interesting. I wasn't planning to stay up and watch this fight, but it ended up happening. So hope you enjoy the post-fight analysis, and I'll catch you all soon, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Be Real TV.